Chapter 23 is going to be starting us in our urinary system. One of the things that I've done is I have set out a kidney for you because it has two sides. Just go ahead and share with the person sitting beside you. So you'll see that I have like one for every two seats. And even though not perfect, okay, it's going to help give us an idea about this system. When we look at this system, this picture right here is showing a view of what's going to be the working unit of this system. This is going to be a glomerulus. You're going to hear that term again because it's going to be present in other systems. But for this system, this is going to be part of our nephrons, which are our working units of the kidneys. As we look at what this system is going to do, yes, the primary role is excretion. But other roles that this organ is going to handle. Yes, we're going to definitely see it filter blood because of where it's located. When you look at this structure that we have, here's our heart, the aorta. As the blood leaves, blood is going to begin to descend. The first organ it hits is our kidneys. So to say that they're going to filter blood and excrete toxic metabolic waste, they're going to do a lot of that because every single time the heart beats, that blood makes its way to the kidneys. Every time the heart beats. That is going to be a lot of fluid making its way to these organs. It's going to help regulate blood volume, water content. That's going to affect blood pressure. We're going to have it play a part in the osmolarity. Now, I'm not sure if you guys remember this, but an osmole, okay? So osmolarity meaning movement of water in the cells. We're going to have it help regulate electrolytes, i.e. the salts, okay, and therefore the acid-base balance, meaning pH. It's going to secrete a hormone. Do you guys remember erythropoietin from the endocrine system and the chapter about the blood? Yes, no, maybe. Do you happen to remember what it did? Where it went? Okay, I think you're thinking about the one that we need the ACE to convert it because of the E. Okay? But if it needs to stimulate red blood cell production, where are the red blood cells made?
Marrow.
The bone marrow. So this gets secreted by the kidneys. This means the kidneys need to have a way to pick up on low red blood cell production. they're going to need to know that we need to increase our red blood cells. What's the biggest thing red blood cells do?
Carry oxygen.
Carry oxygen. Yes, because in addition, and see when she mentioned the liver and so forth, don't forget, in some of these processes that are going to take place, we're going to get materials created, and the liver and the lungs are going to come into play because of the enzyme that gets produced and has to be converted and therefore affect the blood pressure, affecting blood. See that huge connection? Okay, so erythropoietin will help stimulate red blood cell production, regulate calcium homeostasis. If you remember from part 1, one of the things about calcium was very much needed because it plays a role with our building of bones, muscle contraction, nerve conduction. So the kidneys are going to help play a part in regulating the calcium. And that's going to play a part on bone metabolism because it's going to synthesize something called calcitriol. Vitamin D, that's where this is going to come into play. They're going to work to clear hormones and drugs from the blood, detoxify free radicals, and in cases of extreme starvation, they're going to help support blood glucose levels because they can help actually make a glucose from something it shouldn't. All right, amino acids, where should they be utilized?
In the cells.
Making what? Proteins. So those amino acids, we don't store those, okay? The cells need those to make proteins. So in the case of extreme starvation, if you remember, I've mentioned how the body will break down muscle cells because it needs the proteins to get broken down for the amino acids to make glucose, which is not good. We don't want that happening. So, wow, that's a huge list of what something relatively tiny in our bodies, really about the size of a bar of soap. So they're relatively tiny, but they're going to do a lot. When we talk about waste, well, we know that we take our foodstuffs in, and as the body breaks it down, as it goes through the intestine, as we absorb the nutrients, anything left over leaves the body by way of feces. Now, we have to deal also with waste produced by the body's cells. How do the cells of the body produce waste? What are they doing to actually generate a waste? Okay, well now in that case, you're thinking about the CO2 that we depend on the lungs to get rid of. Why, and in that process, the cells are generating ATP, okay? Why do we need the ATP in the cells?
To create proteins.
Do what?
To create proteins.
For the cell to do its job. which means make its product. The product is a protein. These chemical reactions that take place in the body, these chemical reactions of making a product, breaking it down, that is our metabolism. This is it's the sum of all the chemical reactions that are occurring. So we generate waste from that. Most of it is nitrogenous because amino acids that are going to make up proteins contain nitrogen. Okay, so this is very toxic to us. Urea is a byproduct of when the body will break down proteins. And even though we may break down a protein to get the amino acids to use it, it still produces waste. Okay? So when we break down these proteins, we generate urea. The body has to have a way to get rid of that. So these nitrogenous waste that get created in the body, one of the things that will happen in blood work that might get done, they will actually check to see your levels of this. What would be beneficial about knowing the levels of nitrogenous waste?
To know if your body's filtering it out correctly.
To know if the kidneys are functioning correctly.
This is where we do dialysis for patients with non-functioning kidneys because they can't process the nitrogenous waste.
Well, that would be a point where they have reached the kidney failure. So in cases like that, this is when it would reach levels that are going to be deadly. Okay? That comes from many disorders. It could come from kidney failure. It could come from other diseases that are causing the kidneys to not function correctly. It could be maybe the person has other diseases, diabetes, cancers, and so forth, and their kidneys are being affected. So, under normal conditions, like for us, okay, relatively healthy, if you go to the doctor, they're doing a physical, they may do blood work, and they'll check the nitrogen waste. When they look at this, what they're checking for is something called blood urea nitrogen. They call it BUN. We have a normal amount that they will check for. It can be elevated, but here's the thing. If it's a tiny bit elevated, chances are you're not hydrated enough. Okay? Meaning, you're not getting your proper amount of water. Doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're headed to kidney failure. Your doctor might suggest getting your proper amount of water per day and come back and retest. And if you do that, you go back, levels are normal, chances are you will just dehydrated that day. Okay? When those numbers become severely elevated and they do not come down, this could be indicative of the kidneys not working properly. It can, it can progress to something called